crazy time in politics. I said now he'd done this for 12 years. I could never have imagined the craziness I was about to encounter. We started, thought it was pretty simple. First thing I ran on, first bill I sponsored, we were going to sponsor a bill to declare that marriage was between one man and one woman. That not only passed in North Carolina, that passed the voters, and we saw a court strike it down. Just when you think you haven't seen enough craziness, I saw a time this state couldn't figure out who went in which bathroom. I saw ACC basketball leave North Carolina over that issue. Now they can't even define what a man and woman is. When you look at what we went through in COVID, we just had almost 2 years ago a governor stand up in North Carolina and declare that you could not go to church in North Carolina. How could you ever have believed that would happen and we wouldn't have thrown that governor in the Atlantic Ocean? Can't say I still wouldn't like to, but that's where we are. But despite everything that I'm seeing, there are still bright spots in the leadership that I see coming into North Carolina. And there is no brighter spot that I can see than in our Lieutenant Governor, who serves as President of the Senate. A man working at a factory who got upset with his city council because they had a gun ordinance. Went and told him exactly what he thought. If you've ever heard Mark before, you know he doesn't have trouble telling you exactly what he thinks. I saw that go viral. And I saw over 5 million people get his delivery to the Greensboro City Council. And I saw a man be risen up to become Lieutenant Governor of this state. It is an incredible story, but he is more incredible of an individual. To get to work with him every day, Lieutenant Governor is President of the Senate. To see him come in and conduct debate, but to see where he fights in education and what he stands. Finally, another leader in North Carolina that you don't have to question where he stands. You don't have to guess where he stands. He will tell you. And you know that he is fighting for your values. I couldn't be more excited to see someone rise up that way in North Carolina, and I get to say what he can't yet, hopefully it's yet. This is the man that I want to see as the next governor of the state of North Carolina. So if everyone would, please stand to me in welcoming back to Mitchell County the President of the North Carolina Senate, the Lieutenant Governor of the state of North Carolina,
yeah.
And the grace of God, our newest governor of North Carolina.
All right, how's everybody doing? Can you hear me? Yeah. Fantastic. All right, as always, very first thing we're going to do, give thanks to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for giving us our health and our strength and allowing us to do what we do. Y'all act like y'all didn't know this. This is my sweat town because I sweat when I talk. But seriously, for giving us our health and our strength and for giving us all these wonderful freedoms that we have in this nation. You know, there are a lot of people like to try to say this is no longer a Christian nation. That's crazy. You know, I can go buy me a Corvette from a Chevrolet place. And I can take it in my backyard and I can pull the Chevrolet emblems off of it. I can pull the motor out of it, snatch the tires off of it, screw up the paint off of it. And leave it sitting back there with the motor out, the tires off, and the emblems off. But guess what it still is? It's still a Corvette. It's still a Chevrolet. This is still a Christian nation. Amen. We might have some people in this nation that are not acting like this is a Christian nation. And I'm going to tell you this right now. The reason why I stand on this podium and every podium that I stand on and give God thanks every time I open my mouth is this. He is the reason why this nation is here. Amen. He is the one that founded this nation. It's founded on his premises. Founded on his principles. And without his principles, it will cease to exist. Will not work. Cannot operate a nation that was built on God without God. So we give him thanks first and foremost. That leads me into what I'm going to talk about here tonight. If you're not involved in some way politically today, if you are an adult, you are past the age of 18, and you are not involved in politics today in some way, I have to ask you, are you paying attention? Are you paying attention? Are you paying attention to what's being done to our Constitution and our rule of law? Are you paying attention to the fact that the border of this nation, our southern border, is wide open, and drug dealers and gangbangers and quite possibly terrorists pouring over our border in record numbers, while at the same time you have politicians in office who are telling you, you don't need an AR-15. You don't need a 9mm handgun. You don't need to own a firearm. Something's not right about that picture. At the same time, we have district attorneys in some of our major cities who are no longer prosecuting crime. In San Francisco and other places, you can walk right into the Walgreens, just pick up whatever you want, walk right out. Won't be held accountable. You have folks who are committing crimes with guns over and over and over again in this revolving door of crime. And yet still, when they talk about guns, they don't talk about the criminals' guns. They talk about your guns. Those same people are the ones who want to deny why the Second Amendment was put in our Constitution. And they're the same ones. We're telling young people it's not important to have that Constitution, to have that Second Amendment in the Constitution. In fact, they're telling young people that the Constitution is outdated, outmoded, racist, written by old white men. Sorry, but if old white men write that, we'll put one of them on my staff. The Constitution is one of the greatest documents ever written by man. And it stands as a simple rule of law. Currently, it's being perverted by elected officials. You still don't think you need to be paying attention to politics? I would suggest that you go to a gas pump, try to put gas in your car. You can say a lot, because people can say a lot about Donald Trump. They can't say this. He's not a liar. He is not a liar. When he stood on stage and told the American people, if you elect Joe Biden, you'll see inflation like you've never seen before. Gas prices are going to go through the roof. It's going to be a calamity. He sure told the truth. We have a president in office right now who has made a complete debacle out of America. From his handling of Afghanistan all the way to the very groceries that we buy at our stores. Have you bought some chicken breast lately? Have you bought some hamburger lately? Have you bought a pound of bacon lately? If you're a young mother, have you tried to find baby formula lately? If you're not paying attention to politics nowadays, if you're not involved in politics nowadays, it's because you're not paying attention. Still don't think we need to pay attention? Still don't think you need to be involved? Head off down to the schoolhouse in some of the major cities across North Carolina and in America. Take a look at what we are teaching our children. While children in China and India, elementary school children in China and India are learning complex mathematical equations, We are telling our children to question whether or not they are a boy or a girl. We're teaching them about highly suggestive sexual topics that quite frankly aren't fit for adult consumption, much less a 5, 6, 7-year-olds. You know, one of the most in fact, the most ironic thing that has happened to me since I've been in office. I gave a speech at a church one time. And I said something to the effect of, there's no reason why any child in America should be taught about homosexuality or transgenderism or any of that filth. And I said these words. I said, if you don't understand what I mean, you come and ask me. Of course, the left went crazy when I made that statement, because nowadays, you can't speak truth. Truth is the one thing that drives them absolutely insane. You know, I have a theory, I believe, the same reason why truth drives the left insane is the same reason why those demons drove those hogs insane in the Bible and caused them to throw themselves off that cliff. When they hear it, they can't tolerate it. But I said those words and they came and they asked me, and when they did, I held a press conference on the porch of my office. And I showed the same press that was offended by my words the pictures that I was speaking of, the pornographic pictures that are being presented to our children in schools. They filmed those pictures, and when they aired it on their television, on their news programs that evening, they blurred the images out. Not fit for consumption of their viewers, but it's fit for consumption of your children. If you're not involved in politics, you're not paying attention. Still don't believe you need to get involved? Take a look at what they're doing to law enforcement. Take a look at how they demonize police officers, how they've tried to defund the police, and how many places have defunded the police, and look how crime has skyrocketed because of it. Look at the lives that are being lost, both civilian and police. Look at the damage that's been done in many places that may take decades to repair. Because we have raised up a generation of young people to despise law and order and law enforcement. Who's been the purveyors of this? Has it been some hidden entity somewhere behind the scenes, some Hollywood elites? No, it's been some of our leading elected officials. Same one that cheered on the rioters all through those summers when they went across the country and burned police cars, rioted and took over cities. You know, I'm still kind of confused as to why I'm still hearing about January 6th, but nobody's telling me anything about what happened in Portland. It's confusing. These people took over an entire city. Nobody's being held accountable. But that small debacle, and yes, it's on film. I call it a small debacle in Washington, D.C., because here it is. One person was killed. One unarmed white woman was killed on January 6th by a Capitol police officer, and that's it. How many were killed and maimed and crippled during the riots that we saw all across this state and others, staged by BLM and Antifa? And those same politicians that are trying to jail those individuals that they say were involved in a so-called insurrection, they are the same ones who were there bailing those folks out of jail for committing those actions. Ooh. Not paying attention. If you're not paying attention yet, you need to be. You need to be involved. Then we need to take a look at this issue that we got. This social issue, my God. Opened up my news feed the other day. The NCAA decided that they wanted to nominate a man for Woman of the Year. Yeah, you heard that right. The NCAA, an organization that we send our young people off to college, and we depend on this organization to be a solid, well-formed, well-thought-out, well-planned-out organization that will care for our children on the athletic fields of our colleges. These individuals have decided that they would nominate a man to be female athlete of the year. You know, a lot of times when I turn the TV on or I look at a movie and I see the current crop of men, I think, my God, where did John Wayne go? Where did Cary Grant go? Jesus, where did my dad go, for crying out loud? We're in dire straits in this country right now. We're in a bad place. I'm going to tell you why we're in a bad place. Some of you all may not like this, but this is something that I had to deal with myself. When I ask myself, why are we in such a bad place? I have no other answer than to get up off the couch, walk towards the nearest mirror, and look at it and point at the person that I see. That's why we're in such dire straits. You see, I was raised to know the difference between right and wrong. One of the first lessons my mother ever told me is, don't you ever hit anybody. And this is my mom's exact words. Don't you ever put your hands on anybody. Don't you ever hit anybody. But if they hit you, you lay them out. Simple premise. I lived by that all my life. I was raised to know the difference between a man and a woman. Boy, did I know the difference between a man and a woman. You know, a lot of little boys say, they say on TV, I don't like, the little boys saying, I don't like girls. I never went through that phase. I've always known what a woman was, and I've always liked women. See, because we were raised in a generation of people who had common sense. See, we weren't raised in a generation of confusion and chaos. We were raised around people who had biblical principles, who understood that just because you have long legs and long hair and wear a dress, that doesn't mean you are weak. Just because you have a hairy chest and a beard, that doesn't necessarily make you strong. You are just different. God made you to complement one another. We understand why God made man and woman and made them separate and made them for different functions. See, we understood that. That's how I was raised. I was raised in an environment where when we went to school, we sat down and we learned the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. We learned about biology and we learned about science, real science. You know, we learned about real science. We didn't have some guy out there with a tackle box in his face telling the ice caps are going to be gone by the time you guys get old and you're going to die and it's going to be terrible. We didn't have that. We had real education, and that's what we were raised on. We weren't told that America was a bad place. We were told America was a great place. I can remember those days when we stood up in class and said the Pledge of Allegiance and were taught to honor that flag. I can remember specifically when I was a young man, I played in the orchestra. And I'm a little stupid kid. I didn't know any better. They said you got to get something to wipe your instrument off. Keep a rag in the box, right? So I thought it'd be cool if I got an American flag to wipe mine off with. No. Yeah, that's not going to work out good when your orchestra teaches a Vietnam veteran, Vietnam combat veteran. That doesn't work out too good. I got a good lesson in respect for that flag because back in those days, they taught us to honor that flag and to honor our country. To stand up for this country. You see, that's how we were raised. And I'm sure all of you all in here were raised that way. But somewhere along the way, we became silent. We became complacent. The money started getting good. The job was good. The position was good. And we didn't want to risk it. We didn't want to take a chance of making our bosses mad. We didn't want to take a chance of making our neighbors mad. We didn't want to take a chance of making our family mad. We didn't want to take a chance of losing business. Because of that, we refused to speak up about what we saw was already happening in many of our communities. We decided that Andy Griffith was more important than a school board meeting. We decided that we would rather stay at home with our feet up than to go down to the city council meeting and make our voices heard. We decided to let someone else run for office instead of stepping up and doing it ourselves. And because we did, we now find ourselves being led by fools. Well, I'm here to tell you tonight, it's not too late, folks. It's not too late. I want all of y'all to take a look around at each other and tell me what you see. What you see in here is a bunch of ordinary people. People on the left will tell you, oh, you're too old, too fat, you're not educated enough, you're not good enough. You're not able to make a change. How are you going to stand up and fight against what's going on here? You might as well go on home and just put your feet up and don't worry about it, because you can't do anything about it. Folks tell you that, I want you to remember who it was that fought our revolution. See, when we think about our revolution, who fought our revolution, we think about George Washington. We think about Thomas Jefferson. We think about all those great generals, General Nathaniel Greene, that my city, Greensboro, is named after. That's who we think of. That's not who fought the war. The people at Bunker Hill that fought at Bunker Hill, and that fought at Cowpens, and that fought at Yorktown, they were just like me and you. They were ordinary people who decided they were going to stand up and lay their lives down on the line for a future that they could barely understand and would not be able to see. Right. Ordinary people. The people who fought at Pearl Harbor, and the people who fought at Quai Son, and in every war that we've ever been in to preserve the freedom of this nation, they were just like you. They weren't the Pattons or the MacArthurs or the FDRs. They were the factory workers and the teachers. They were the retired people, the people that have written off and said they'll never amount to anything. Those were the people who made it happen in those times of crisis, that pulled us back from the brink. Today is the same way. You are in this room today, sitting in this room on a Thursday evening when you could be at home relaxing, because you care. Because you want to be engaged, and because you are paying attention. Continue to pay attention. Continue to stand, and continue to be unafraid. Sure, if I ask how many people in here believe in God, I'm sure everyone would raise their hand. If you raise your hand, if I ask you if you believe in God, then you have nothing to fear. You know, people ask me all the time, they ask me and say, why do you say things that nobody else would say? Because they need saying, that's why I say it. I say it because they need saying. Then the next question they'll ask is, well, why aren't you afraid of the news media, and aren't you afraid of this, and aren't you? No, I'm not afraid. You know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid of one thing. I'm afraid that when I leave from here, that I'm going to stand in front of God Almighty, and he's going to say, you know what, boy? I gave you a great big mouth, great big old lungs, and a huge presence. Why did you not use that to spread my truth? See, I don't have to answer the WRAA. I don't have to answer to the news media. Those folks think they are powerful. But I can line every one of them up in here, from WRAL to CNN. I can line every one of them up in here and ask each one of them, show me the keys to heaven and hell. None of them can show it to me, because none of them hold it. Not the one that holds those. And that's the one that I am beholden to. The same one that put his hand on this nation and blessed this nation and caused it to be what it is. See, what we need in this nation, we need a revival, and we need a revolution. Yes. But our revolution doesn't need be a revolution where we do something new. We need a revolution where we go back to doing what we used to do. The old time-honored stuff that we used to do. Standing for the flag and kneeling for the cross. Teaching our children right from wrong. Honoring our police officers and our soldiers and our sailors and our airmen. And standing tall for this nation. That's the revolution that we need. And the revival we need is a revival of God's wisdom and God's courage to fall on the patriotic people of this nation. so that we can once again pull her back from the precipice. Because I can assure you, we are on the precipice. The only thing that's standing in front of the United States falling over that edge, falling into history as another great nation that failed because of weakness, is you. You are the only thing standing in the way. So I encourage you this evening, stand tall, stand proud, stand with God, stand with courage. You don't have anything to be afraid of. It was God who put every nickel in your pocket. It was God that put every morsel of food in your mouth. It was God that put the roof over your head. People saw fit to do all those things. Good times. He'll do the same thing when trouble comes. It's been proven time and time again. So guys, we got a lot of work to do in November. A lot of work. We got to get a supermajority here in North Carolina in our House and our Senate, fill it up with good people like Senator Heiss and others. Where's the other House member that's in here? Right over here. We got to fill our chambers up with conservatives in November. Yes. No question about it. We have got to have it because we've got to make Roy Cooper ineffective. You know, when we get that supermajority, won't too much matter what he thinks anymore. His veto pen will be ineffective. But we've also got to send a good senator, a great senator to D.C. We've got to send great House members to D.C. to take back that body as well, to make that other obstructionist, that other idiot. Yes, I call him an idiot because the man can't string two sentences together. You know, I'm not sure about how Joe Biden became president. Now I'm gonna just tell you, I still don't believe 83 million people voted for Joe Biden.
No.
I don't think 83 million people know who Joe Biden is. I don't think Joe Biden knows who Joe Biden is. But he's there, he's the president, and we can do something about it this November. We can take back that House and Senate. If we do the good work we need to do here in North Carolina, we can get that done. And we can get this country back on track. So guys, let's stand up again. Again, let's stand up and be courageous. Work hard. Believe. Have that faith. Let's pull this country back from the precipices on. We've got to do it for ourselves. We've got to do it for our children. We've got to do it for our grandchildren. And we've got to do it for the same reason those fellows on Bunker Hill did it. For those generations that they would never see. Let's stand up and save this state and this nation, guys. God bless you all. God bless Mitchell County. And God bless the great state of North Carolina. Thank you.